Today we are reviewing for chapter 9. Today we're just going to go over the key concepts that we learn in this chapter, and it's going to be a quick review, just those 8 questions that you guys have, the front and the back for you guys. I need to be able to decide for question number 1, the square root of 66 is between what two consecutive integers? So if I simplify square root of 66, we are going to approximate your answer. So I can start with 1 square is 1, 2 square is 2, is too small. But let me start with, let's start. 1 square is 1, too small, and it's 66. 2 square is 4, too small, and it's 66. 3 square is 9, too small. So what number should I get to that will give me close to 66? Or I can continue. 4 square is 16, too small, and it's 66. 5 square is 25, too small. 6 square is 36, too small, and it's 66. 7 square is 49, too small. 8 square is 64, almost there. 9 square is 81, so that's too big. So therefore the square root of 66 has to be between 8 and 9. It's going to be closer to 8, so it might be 8.1. But in this case, your answer will be letter C. For problem number 2, I need to be able to simplify the square root of 24b to the 6th power. I'm going to create my factor tree, which will be factors of 24 will be 6 times 4. Factors of 6 will be 2 times 3. Factors of 4 will be 2 times 2. I'm going to place them inside the square root. You want to make sure that you place them in order, from the smallest ones to the largest. So I have 1, 2, 3 2's, 2 times 2 times 2, and times 3. If you multiply all 4 numbers, you end up with 24. Now to simplify, I'm going to take out my twins. 2 times 2 is 4, and the square root of 4 is 2. And what's left inside? 2 times 3 will be 6. Notice that I left some space for the b's. Now, how many b's do I have inside? 6. How many pairs of 2? How many pairs do I have? 3. So therefore, we have b to the 3rd power. And how many b's are left inside? None. So therefore, that'll be your answer. If sometimes you end up with 1 b inside, so you might have to place it in there. Sometimes you don't. So in this case, your answer is C. Problem number 3, solve. We want to be able to solve a quadratic equation. We have an x squared, and we just have an x squared and a number, so therefore I can do it by square roots, where I need to isolate the x squared. What will be the next step? Correct. Move the 5 to the right, we can say negative 5. We have 2x squared equal to 14. I still need to leave the x squared by itself first, before I do anything else, before I get rid of the square. So therefore, I need to divide by 2. Divide by 2, x squared is equal to 7. And now I can get rid of the square. The inverse operation to get rid of the square is the square root. The square root and the square cancels, so therefore x equal to square root cannot be simplified. Square root of 7 cannot be simplified since 7 is a prime number, so stay the same. But let me not forget my plus or minus. And some of you guys on your quiz forgot your plus or minus. So therefore, one of your answers will be A, and the other one will be C. In this case, you have 2 answers, one positive and one negative. For your test, you guys will have to memorize or have to remember your discriminant formula. So use the discriminant to find the number of x-intercepts for the equation. So to find the number of x-intercepts, we can use the discriminant. Do you remember your equation for your discriminant? Correct. It's b squared minus 4ac, where this is your a, 1, there's no coefficient, b and c. So I'm going to simplify. B squared minus 4AC. I'm going to substitute the values. B is negative 4, A is 1, and C is 4. And I can simplify. Negative 4 squared is 16. I'll multiply those two numbers. Negative 4 times 1 is negative 4. Remember, that's still multiplying by the 4. So it gives me 16. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. And that gives me 0. So now that you find your discriminant to be 0, now you need to determine how many solutions we have, because it says to find the number of x-intercepts. So therefore, I'm going to place negative, 0, and positive. 0, 1, 2. Your solutions are the same thing as your x-intercepts. In this case, we have 0, so therefore we have one solution. So we have one x-intercept. If this was a positive number, then you'll have two x-intercepts. If you end up with a negative for your discriminant, you end up with zero x-intercepts or zero solutions. So therefore, it says, then make a quick sketch of the graph. So therefore, I need to be able to make a sketch. It has to cross the x-axis only once, so you'll be just bouncing off. And you'll touch only once. If it has two x-intercepts, it'll cross twice. And if it has no x-intercepts, if your determinant is negative, you'll be floating above it. Let's continue to problem number 5. Justina correctly solved the equation by completing the square. So you have to make sure that you read it carefully, and you have to recall what is the process to complete the square. Correct, that's the one with the square. So notice that they already moved the 4 to the right for you. So I just need to make space for my square. X squared minus 8x, leave some space. 4 and leave some space. So I'm going to place my square in here and my square in here. And I need to remember, how do I come up with this number? Correct. You take b, you take half of it, and then you square it. So what's half of negative 8? Negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. Remember, whatever you place inside the square, it will always be positive, since you are going to square it. I'm not going to factor the left-hand side. Factors of x squared gives me x and x. Factors of 16 will be 4 and 4. That's a positive 16, so they need to have the same signs. They need to add up to a negative 8, so they both should be negative. Equals 20. They will always be the same, so I can rewrite it as 1, x minus 4 squared. So notice that in this case you answer the left in that step, so your answer is D. Now from there, if I need to solve it, then I can take the square root on both sides and then move the 4 to the right. But in this case, they only ask you to be able to select part of her solution, which is letter D. Problem number 6. Find the two solutions. It's a quadratic equation, and notice that it doesn't tell you whether you need to use the quadratic formula, completing the square, or factoring. But by looking at your answers, since we have whole numbers and fractions as part of your answers, we should be able to factor this out. See if you can factor it. $5x squared, the factors of 5x squared will be 5x and x. The factors of 16, I can use 8 and 2, 4 and 4, or 16 and 1. I need to end up with a positive 42. So I can try using the 4 and 4 as the factors. But notice that your answers, there are no 4s. I see 2s, 5s, and 8. So therefore, most likely it will be this combination here, your 8 and your 2, since your answers have 8 in there. So I need to decide, should I place my 8 here and my 2 here, or my 2 and my 8? Correct. I should place my 8 here because this will give me a 40. And I'll place my 2 in here because this will give me a 2. So 40 plus 2 will be 42. That's a positive 16. That means that they need to have the same signs, both positives or both negatives. They need to have to a positive 42, so they both should be positives. And now I'm going to use my zero product property to simplify this out, or to solve it. Because they're multiplying and they're equal to 0, either 5x plus 2 equal to 0, or x plus 8 equal to 0. I'm going to move my 2 to the right because say negative 2. So it'll be 5x equal to negative 2. Divide by 5. So therefore one of my answers will be x equal to negative 2 over 5. I'm going to do the same thing with the other equation. Move the 8 to the right because say negative 8. So therefore my answers are B and E. And just be careful when you're selecting your answers. Problem number 7. Solve by using the quadratic formula. So you need to be able to recall your quadratic formula. Do you guys remember it? Let's write it together. Ready? 1. Well, let's sing it together. 1, 2, 3. X equals negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So let's go and set up x equals negative b plus or minus square root. Remember that this is going to be your discriminant, which is b squared minus 4ac. And I prefer to do it separately because it makes it much easier process. All over 2a. So let's see. X equals negative b. b is 7. All over 2a, which is 5. And now I just need to be able to simplify this. Substitute and then simplify. B is 7, A is 5, and C is negative 1. Notice that by using a red pen, it's much easier to be able to see the process and less mistakes. And notice that I set it up first and then I plug them in. 7 squared is 49. Multiply this out gives me a negative 20 times negative 1. Those two numbers are still multiplying, which is a positive 20. So therefore it will be 69. If I try to simplify square root of 69, cannot be simplified. So that will stay the same. Sometimes you're able to come up with, this might be square root of 64, which is a perfect square, but not in this case. So let me just simplify. Negative times 7 is a negative 7, square root of 69, all over 10. Problem number 8. Solve the system of equations algebraically. So now we have a system because we have two equations, but now we have a quadratic equation and a linear equation. So we probably end up with two solutions. Remember, this is a parabola, so it's facing up. And the slope is negative for this line, so you'll be crossing, probably might be a little steeper, much steeper, but you'll be crossing at 2 points, or 1, or none. Now the problems that we are going to give you, either they cross at 2 points or at 1 point. We don't give you any problems that they don't cross. You'll see that in Algebra 2. Now to solve it, I must set one equals to the other. So we have x squared minus 7x minus 5 equals negative 6x minus 3. And I prefer to place my x squared to the left of the equal sign. And now I want to make it equal to 0. So what should I do? Correct. Move my negative 6 to the left, we can say positive 6x. Move my negative 3 to the left, we can say positive 3. Because I want to make it equal to 0. There's nothing left on the right. And now I can combine it. Gives me x squared minus 1x, or minus x, minus 2. And we can factor this out. You should be able to factor this out on this problem. Factors of x squared will give me x and x. Factors of 2 will be 2 and 1. 1 negative, 1 positive, since that's a negative 2. And it needs to add up to a negative 1x. So therefore, which one should be negative? Correct, the 2. And that should be a positive, because that gives you positive 1 minus 2 is negative 1. And now I can use my zero product property. Because they're multiplying and they're equal to 0, either one or the other are equal to 0. So therefore, x minus 2 equal to 0. What's this? Move the 2 to the right, x equal to 2. Move the 1 to the right, x equal to negative 1. Those are the x values. Remember that we're looking for 2 points of intersections. I need to find the y value for the first one. So I'm going to take the 2 and I can plug into the first or second equation. Which will be easier? Correct, second equation. So y equals negative 6x minus 3. But now instead of the x, I'm going to plug in a 2. And I'm going to simplify. Negative 8 minus 3, y equals negative 11. So therefore, my first solution, my x value is 2, and the corresponding y value is negative 11. That's where they cross. For the second intersection, negative 6x minus 3, and the x value is negative 1. Y equals 6 minus 3, so y equals 3. My second intersection, my x value is negative 1, and my y value is 3. Now remember that your solutions, you want to make sure that you write down your solutions are those 2 points, 2, negative 11, and negative 1 and 3. And you have to give me this at the very end so I can find your answers. Remember, it has to be 2 points of intersections. So this will complete our review for today. Good luck on your tests, and I'll see you guys next time.